Good morning. If I could have everybody's attention, we'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics Commission, July 9th, 2025. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. The meeting will come to order. I would like to start out this morning by recognizing our new commissioner, Craig Campbell, who has been appointed by the Speaker of the House. Craig, welcome to the commission. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Call the roll, please.
First Congressional District Commissioner, Secretary Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner, Vice Chairman Kevin Potter.
Here.
Third Congressional District Commissioner, Charles Ortega.
Here.
Fourth Congressional District Commissioner, Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner, Chairman Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter. House-appointed Commissioner Craig Campbell.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. The draft of the minutes of the May 14th, 2025 commission meeting has been sent to you, and a copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes before we consider them for approval? If there are no corrections, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I shall move.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Abstain.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Chairman Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
And Commissioner Campbell.
Abstain.
Okay, the motion passes. First up is item 4, introduction of new staff member. Director, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Have new staff members. We erred a little bit on this agenda item, so I got a couple I'm going to introduce you. First and foremost is our new airport engineer, Jeff Kinshu. Jeff, why don't you come up and tell everybody a little bit about yourself? He comes to us from a long background of federal service, but I'll let him do his background talking.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Kinshu. As Grayson alluded to, I've worked federal government for many years, both active duty Air Force and as a civilian for the Air Force, and as a contractor to the Air Force, as well as some other private sector entities, mostly civil engineering oriented, and it's great to be on board the staff. I'm a graduate of the Air Force Academy and the University of Michigan, and I've been in Oklahoma since 1985, so I feel like I'm a native Oklahoman almost.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We've Jeff is an adopted Oklahoman, fully engorged with all Oklahoma lore since 1985. And the only thing we're gonna have to work on, Jeff, is he's used to big aprons and big hangers, and we're gonna have to get him down to the general aviation size of things. So he's used to working with 12, 18-inch pavement thicknesses, and we're gonna have to teach him. Yeah, we don't do that in the GA world. We don't have the money. We go for 6 and 5 and 3-inch pavements. So. Without further ado, our next staff member, our communications and marketing coordinator, Melissa Fuller, and she comes to us from state service at the Department of Health. So, Melissa.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to work for Sandra, and I'm ready to go. I come from the Department of Health. I've worked in communications for better part of 20 years, and I'm just ready to do whatever it's going to take to really pump Oklahoma up in terms of the aerospace and aeronautical industry.
That's great.
If you've seen some of her, seen some of the agency's brochures, some of our banners, other marketing things, you can thank her for her eye that's been putting the touch on those lately. And then last, but certainly not least, is our summer intern, Nicole No, from the University of Oklahoma.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Nicole, and I'm coming from the University of Oklahoma. This fall, I'm going to be a junior, majoring in aviation management and minoring in general business. And I am also working on my private pilot's license outside of OU, and I'm going to graduate in the fall of 26. And I'm just very excited to be here and super excited for what the future has. Thank you.
All right, I think that concludes our new, and so certainly welcome your all's conversations with these new staff members after our meetings. I think it would be good for you guys to introduce, especially our intern, and maybe share a little about your aviation story and how you got to where you're at in life, and maybe that provides her a little inspiration for her future career trajectory. So, that being said, stand for any questions.
Thank you, Grayson. Jeff, Melissa, and Nicole, welcome to the ODAA. Next, we have item 5, staff longevity recognition.
All right, we something about the last couple months, 5 years ago. I don't know what it was, but we got some team members all right there about the same time. 5-year recognition, and I believe we only have, I don't see JW here yet. Thomas has been with us now for 5 years, and you know, I don't know if you know Thomas's story. He hopped on it was a plane, right, and came out here for an interview at some point in time, or no, I guess you moved.
Hired me fully
Yeah, we hired you fully virtual. In COVID, moved halfway across the country to a state you had never lived in before, and but nearby, came from New Mexico, so knew about Oklahoma, but came from Oregon out here to Oklahoma, and has provided 5 good years to the service for the state of Oklahoma. And so I just want to say thank you, Thomas, for your service and your public service to Oklahoma, to aviation, to the aerospace industry as a whole, and to the glider industry, which you are so passionate about. And so I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and let you say a few words.
Well, like Director already said, I came out here in the middle of COVID, doing a major move cross-country in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not sure I would recommend that one, but it's been a fun ride. There's been some bumps here and there, but I've really enjoyed the way that the community here in Oklahoma, particularly the aviation community, has welcomed me with open arms. I've enjoyed being out, meeting all of our airports around the state. And it's been a fun experience working here at OAC/ODAA.
Quick question.
And OSIDA.
Where do you fly gliders?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
You're flying gliders now
Yes, I
at Hinton?
fly out of Hinton. I just recently got my CFIG rating, so I've just started instructing out there, but I've been flying gliders since 2015. I've been a member of the Oklahoma Soaring Association since I've lived here.
How do you fit
It's a
in the
great
back of a
club.
233?
I don't. Luckily, we have a G103 that I fly because they cannot shoehorn me back in the backseat of that 233.
Yeah, same problem. Cool.
All right, let's, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind coming down for a picture opportunity. I'll hand this to you and.
Thank you.
Something like that. All right.
Congratulations, Thomas. Next up is item 6, financial report. Chris, you're recognized.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Starting out with the financial summary document there, as of June 30th, the department had an ending cash balance of $31.6 million, with encumbrances totaling $24 million, leaving us with an unencumbered cash balance of $7.6 million. Outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency total $4.5 million, and the amount of airport construction projects that were granted in '25 but have not yet been executed, or that were not granted and will be rolled to the new fiscal year, totals 9.3. Leaves us with an available cash balance after expected reimbursements and encumbrances of $2.7 million. Total expenditures during FY '25 were $24.6 million, which that compares to $11.8 million last year. As a reminder, this report only contains our reoccurring revenue. It does not contain PrEP and ARPA funds. Those one-time funds, if we include those, total expenses for the year were $62 million, compares to $18 million last year, so a nearly 70% increase in expenses year over year. A couple of other noteworthy comparisons to the previous fiscal year. The number of invoices we processed increased 30%, from 720 to 1,024. Credit card payments increased 29%, and the number of purchase orders created increased by 16. So as we've seen the last couple of years, the number of transactions and funds flowing through the agency continues to increase substantially, and I certainly want to recognize Clarissa and Michelle for all their work processing these transactions. Moving on to the revenue document, total statutory revenue collected for the month of May was $3.7 million. The majority of that was reimbursements from ODAA for some projects we're doing. And June's total was $68,000. That will look a little different than what's on the screen there. Tax Commission posted the revenue after we sent that out yesterday morning. Total statutory revenue collected for FY '25 was $15.9 million. That compares to $9.2 million previous year. One note there is the excise tax collections were up 30% last year compared to the previous year. So we had a couple of really good months there you can see in December. Finally, on the 3-year average document, our revenue collected from statutory taxes and fees this year finished about $2.9 million more than what our 3-year average is. With that, I'll pause for any questions, and then we'll look at the '26 budget. So our FY '26 budget was submitted to OMS on July 3rd, and that should be approved here in a couple weeks. For the FY '26 budget, we projected revenue of $79.1 million, total expenses of $115.7 million. While those numbers obviously do not match up, we started the year with about $160 million cash in our accounts, includes $72 million in PrEP funds, $16 million for the engine test cell from last year, and then $37 million of the funds we received for one-time projects. So those cash funds will be used to balance the budget. For the budgeted expenses, apologize for the eye chart there. $43.8 million, 38% is for the traditional airport construction program. $39.8 million, or 34%, is for PrEP projects. So combined, we're at about 72% of the budget is for airport projects. We've got $24.1 million for the engine test cell program that's been appropriated over the last 2 years. $3 million for UAS and AAM. $2.2 million for aviation education, and $1.5 million for administrative and operating expenses, and then $1 million for ODAA expenses that will all be reimbursed out of their funds. So that is a very high-level overview, but happy to answer any detailed questions you all have.
Questions? Thank you, Chris. Next is item 7, legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Grace and Sandra, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm going to kick us off on the federal side, and then we'll turn it over to Sandra for the state discussion. On the federal side, since May, we have had the big beautiful bill that has passed. I think most of you probably saw that in the news. Obviously, that has impacted a lot of the country in various ways. I won't talk about everything that's non-aviation, but there were some very important aviation items within that bill, particularly the air traffic control modernization efforts. I think we have seen over the last 7 or 8 months that the current administration has gotten behind trying to bring our current ATC system out of the Stone Age, as they've referred it to, and significantly supercharge the investment of some of the aging facilities around the country. So in the bill, we had $12.5 billion to modernize the ATC system. That include about $4.75 for telecommunications upgrades, $3 billion for radar system replacements, $1 billion for recapitalization and consolidation of terminal radar approach control facilities, $50 million for remote towers, $100 million for tower simulators. It does not, however, contain the $1 billion for air traffic control training, recruitment, and retention bonuses and expenses that were originally hoped for. It does also not include some of the bigger tower upgrades that were originally included in the House version of the bill. Obviously, we all know negotiations between the House and the Senate, and not everybody gets everything that they want. The one nice thing that I think came out of the big, beautiful bill was discussions on air traffic control privatization, which we know has been a big hot topic for the last, well, pretty much since Reagan fired the controllers back in the 80s. Comes up about every 5 to 10 years, it seems. The current administration, the Secretary of Transportation, the nominated FAA administrator have all said that is not what this is about. That debate was had 6, 7 years ago. We know that held up the FAA reauthorization discussion at that point in time pre-COVID. We are not here to rehash that debate. It's been debated. It's been put to bed, as they said, and so this is not a first step to ATC privatization. They don't believe in it, which was really good to hear for the aviation community at large, for general aviation, but particularly for the FAA Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center, because we know that privatization could have significant impacts to that entity, and obviously impact the economy of the state of Oklahoma from having those 5,000-6,000 employees out there as a big stalwart for the aviation aerospace industry. So the one disappointing thing we will say about not the big beautiful bill, but about federal government is the slowness of the FAA grants that have been coming out. We all know that the first year of a new administration, it takes a little bit of extra time to get FAA grants out the door, but we've not had a whole lot of grants come out the door, and so I know there's been a letter being circulated around Congress. I've reached out to our two senators, because it started on the Senate side, to encourage the administration to get FAA AIP grants out the door as quickly as we can. Obviously, us in Oklahoma, we have a little bit longer construction season, but even we are constrained by a time frame. And so if we don't get grants till August or September, there's a good chance that the majority of those projects, particularly the asphalt project, particularly the projects north of I-40, are going to roll to the following spring and not start construction immediately. Obviously, our friends north of us in the northern tier of the United States, Alaska, they basically are completely sacrificed unless they get grants in May or June of their construction season. So that concludes the federal congressional update. And Sandra, I'm going to kick it over to you for the state side.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm just going to briefly go over the Excel spreadsheet that you have before you on your screens. And this is an update on the legislation from the 2025 legislative session. And House Bill 2260 provided targeted tax incentives for civil engineering students, and that was vetoed by the governor. They conducted a veto override, and it passed and filed with the Secretary of State. So now civil engineering students will also enjoy that tax credit. Senate Bill 135, which was an ODAA request bill, expands the Oklahoma Aircraft Engine Testing Development Grant Program to include the testing of rocket engines. That did pass both the House and the Senate and became law without the governor's signature. Senate Bill 287 was the engineer tax credit bill and extended it until 2032. That was by Senator Pugh and Representative Miller. The bill passed both houses and became law without the governor's signature. Senate Bill 713 was not an ODAA request bill, but does have an aviation impact, and it requires the owner or operator of a new wind energy facility to apply to the Federal Aviation Administration for installation of a light mitigating technology system that complies with FAA regulations. I believe this addresses an issue of lighted wind turbines in western Oklahoma. The bill did become law after it was vetoed by the governor, and there was a veto override, and it did pass, and it was filed with the Secretary of State. Senate Bill 730 was an ODAA request bill. It put the 5-year airport construction program into state statute, which will now make the airport construction live longer than Grayson, myself, or Chris, and forever. Whoever is sitting in these chairs will know that they have to pre-plan the airport construction program on a 5-year term. So that is in law, Senate Bill 730. Senate Bill 912 moved the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority into the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics, and I believe Director Arties is going to elaborate on that later. And Senate Bill 920 was an Advanced Air Mobility Integration Initiative, and it also became law without the governor's signature, and it was some cleanup language for UAS and AAM. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Senator, they have become law without the governor's signature because he's,
It was a unique year, sir, and some of the legislation that he did not feel that he needed to sign, he allowed it to become law. And especially at the end of the legislative session, and Commissioner Ortega can help me here, it was just a peculiar year at the state legislature.
It was a very, very strange ending to the session. I think when you move along, and seems like the relationships are really strong, and then something always creeps up to kind of make that go away. And so I think there were statements made on both sides, and I'll leave it at that.
okay.
I can tell you that aviation did well this year, and we have a nice presence in the Capitol, and as seen by our turnout at Aero Oklahoma. And so we look forward to 2026 and meeting the challenges ahead. So I'll yield for any more questions.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Next up is item 8, Oklahoma Department of Aerospace Aeronautics Administrative Rules. Michelle, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For item 8, staff is seeking approval to move forward with the administrative rulemaking process. At this juncture, it will give staff the opportunity to review the current language, determine what, if any, changes are recommended, and then we would bring those back before you at a later time for consideration. The first 3 items are part of our current title, while item D will give us the opportunity to define administrative rules for the Aircraft and Space Engine Test Cell Program. So item A is going to be our airport construction program for the mobile fueling system. We pulled that out in case we needed to have additional conversation on that. Item B is the remainder of that chapter 15 airport construction program. Item C is going to be our aerospace and aviation education program. And then item D is going to be new. So while we've started that, we've got to develop administrative code for that, the aircraft and space engine test cell program. So I will stand for any questions, and I think Director Arties may have some comments.
Hello? Okay, now we're working. So commissioners, on item A, I want us to have a healthy debate on the mobile fueling system, which I know has been a topic of consideration going back to the Claremore project of last year. And I know there was differing opinions amongst the board members, and so I wanted us to get a sense of what trajectory do you want staff to go on for mobile fueling systems. I'll provide a little bit of the background. And especially for Commissioner Campbell, since he's a little new here. So we embarked on the Pro-Growth Aviation Infrastructure Initiative when the legislature started giving us additional general revenue dollars starting with FY22 during the 2021 legislative session. Obviously, it started with just hangars and doing a few hangars. Then that moved into other pro-growth infrastructure items such as terminal buildings and permanent fuel systems, taxiways into new development areas, utilities, roadways into new development areas to help start the foundation of having a truly organic and aviation business-friendly airport system around the state. Obviously, the number one goal being recruit new business, recruit new aviation activity to the state with the hopes of making this the number one industry for Oklahoma. So to give you a little bit of detailed date background, in the end of 22, we engaged in the permanent rulemaking process where we added fuel systems to the mix. Those were permanent fuel systems, self-serve fuel systems that you see around the state, 100 low-lead Jet A. We've had several airports take advantage of that. That was approved. It started in December of 22. That was approved in the spring of 23 by you all, and then that goes to the legislature. If the legislature doesn't take any action, Then the governor has to approve it. Governor approved those rules. They went into effect later in 2023. In conversations that had been occurring during that legislative session and during that summer, several airports had indicated to us that, hey, we would be interested in seeing if you guys would be willing to expand your fuel system grant program to include mobile, i.e. fuel trucks. And we said, we think that's an opportunity. We can present that to the commission. So we did that in the December of 23 meeting, presented to you the new permanent rule process, just like we're doing here today, obviously based on the legislature's changing of the permanent rule process. The timelines have been moved forward, so that's why we're doing it here in July instead of in December or October like we normally have done in years past. In December of 23, we talked about mobile fuel systems. We moved forward with recommending the inclusion of mobile fueling as an eligible project in the administrative rules process. That was approved by you all in March of 24, again, submitted to the legislature. I don't believe the legislature took action at that point in time like they typically don't. The governor then approved those rules, and they went effective later in the summer of 2024. Hence how Claremore's project ended up before you guys in the late 2024 timeframe. And then obviously, during the Claremore project, there was a long discussion about, well, should we or should we not do mobile fueling systems? We'll let this one go through because obviously we've approved it, we put it in the ACP, we had the discussion surrounding it, but we need to have a bigger conversation. So here we have is the bigger conversation of should we or should we not include mobile fueling systems. Right now it is in the administrative rules as a eligible project. So what you all would be considering under item A is, do we leave it in there as it stands? Mobile fueling systems eligible for both Jet A 100 low lead. Do we amend that and only allow one fuel type for mobile fueling systems? Or do we get rid of it in its entirety? Those are essentially the three options that we want to have amongst the discussion. My belief from the staff's perspective is that having this as an opportunity is important along that pro-growth aviation infrastructure trajectory. We don't want to have great terminal buildings and great hangars and great aprons and great fixed fuel systems, but then a mobile truck from 1980 because we can't get a new truck for lack of city desire, lack of city participation. I will say that in all likelihood, we have 108 airports around the state. Not every airport has fuel. I would say probably half or 3/4 of those have fixed fuel systems, but even a smaller number would be practically eligible for a mobile fuel system. We're not going to go, and I apologize to Boise City in advance, we're not going to go put a fuel truck at Boise City, Oklahoma. They don't have the need, they don't have the staff to operate said fuel truck. But a Bartlesville, a Muskogee, a Durant, they have that level of capability. It would be limited to those airports that have city-run and operated fuel systems, operated by their staff, that have essentially claimed that privilege. So I believe it's important to have that as an eligible project. Not every community is going to take advantage of it. Not everybody's going to take advantage of it all at once. I believe we have a handful of sponsors that have inquired to us, hey, we'd like to participate in the mobile fuel truck program. We have held off on them and said, look, we need to have this discussion and this debate with this board. And so that is what we're here to do on item 8A, is to see what is the board's preference. Do we want to leave the rules as it is, keep them eligible? Do we want to amend the rules and change the eligibility of maybe just one fuel type? Or do we want to do away with it altogether? And if once we get direction from you, we will then proceed down that pathway depending on what the board's desire is. And so we'll quit talking there and see if there's questions or conversations, discussions amongst the team. And I've got some other data and information to hand out, or not hand out, but talk about if so desired.
Grayson, I think just for clarity, this, one of the prerequisites to a mobile fuel truck, they have a fixed ground Jet A tank. Is that right? That they would have to have a fixed ground?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes. They would have to have a fixed tank to go from the fixed tank to the mobile truck. because a mobile truck is, 1,500, maybe 3,000 gallons at most.
right.
And you're not gonna offload straight from a tanker
Yeah.
onto a mobile truck because you'll only be taking a,
Yeah.
quarter load,
Yeah.
third load, whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So this is only for county-run or city-run airports? And they're running the fuel, they're selling the fuel as a city entity?
That is correct. So, there's probably right now a dozen and a half to 2 dozen city airport, we'll call it our airport operated, because, we know the sponsors vary from city to university to public agency. The airport operated fuel systems is what this would be limited to. In all likelihood, there's only about a dozen and a half, maybe 2 dozen across the state that are airport run that actually have fuel trucks right now. Claremore obviously was one of those. Durant is one of those. Enid is a great example. Weatherford, El Reno. Apologize if I'm leaving out any here in the audience. Didn't mean to do that if I've left your name out. But those are some of the examples of airports that would be eligible for a mobile fuel system because they have a fuel truck.
I think my concern, Grayson, is if the city doesn't see the ROI on purchasing a fuel truck because they're not selling enough fuel to justify that, it's a hard time seeing that, that we're gonna fund that, for them. That's my challenge with it, I believe.
And this would be a 50-50 proposition, so the city would still have skin in this game. It would be essentially.
That'd be across the board, every time it'd be 50-50?
Yeah, 50, the rules right now, just like a fixed fuel system, the mobile fuel system is a 50-50
Yeah, okay,
proposition.
okay.
So it does require a significant local match, and local skin in the game.
Is that what we did at Claremore?
Correct, that's what we did at
We did.
Claremore, 50-50.
Now, I'm concerned about the city or the county entity, whoever's running the airport, in competition with private-run airport fuel systems. And if the state's giving the money to them, the counterparts at other airports are kind of at a disadvantage.
That certainly is something to be considerate of, but at the end of the day, we are only allowed to provide funds to public entities. And so this is in mirroring with the FAA rules. So just like a fixed fuel system, a FAA grant funds can't go be spent on a fixed fuel system that is then gifted or used by a private FBO. It has to be a publicly run facility at the end of the day. And I would say that most of our privately run FBOs at general aviation airports outside of the Wiley Post, Riversides, Will Rogers, Tulsas of the world, most of them are on a fuel truck program because they have enough fuel flow going through that airport to justify getting a discount on that truck. For example, Enid, city-run FBO, at the height of their operations about 3 years ago when the primary runway, or it may have been 2, when the primary runway at Vance was shut down, and basically most of the operations were shifted to Woodring, they had tripled their normal fuel sales. And at that point, they were just scratching the surface of eligibility with their fuel provider to get a quote-unquote discounted truck based on the amount of fuel that they were pumping out. Most all of the airports that we're talking about here don't pump enough fuel to justify getting a private FBO to their airport. It just doesn't make it, there's not a profitability there to have a private FBO come to that airport and operate on a day-to-day basis.
We're talking, what, a 600-gallon truck or so? Single axle?
It could be single, could be double. I was trying to remember how many gallons Claremore was. I think Claremore was 1,500? Yeah, 3,000. Yeah, 3,000 gallon truck would be kind of the max, I think.
Yeah.
1,500 would probably be 1,000, maybe the minimum that we would see from a fuel truck.
What is that gonna cost per truck? Do you have any idea, ballpark?
Yeah, Claremore's was just under $300,000 for a new truck. And like I said, we ended up spending about 150. The city ended up spending about 150.
And do they come back to us when the truck's worn out and want another one?
So we have in our system that it has to run through the end of its useful life, which I believe we listed as 10 years. So the truck would have to last 10, just like our existing grants are at the end of the day. So like pavement projects, you have a time period where you can come back to us for a rehabilitation on the pavement, just like the FAA has. The FAA, once we go do a crack seal and seal coat, you can't come back to the FAA 2 years later and say we want another crack seal and seal coat. You have to wait a certain time period. Once you do an overlay on an asphalt runway, you have to wait a certain time period to go do another overlay on that runway. So it's the similar process, just like lights. Lights have a 10-year life. The lighting systems are required to be in the ground for 10 years before they can come to us for rehabilitation purposes.
Grayson, is that something that we could extend? I mean, these fuel trucks don't put very many miles on them, just moving around the airport. I think at 10 years, that's kind of a short term for
Sure.
a truck, I believe.
Yeah, if we wanted to go higher, 15 years, 20 years, yeah, whatever number, and again, like I said, this is why we wanted to have this discussion and debate, whatever number you all feel comfortable with, making those edits. I mean, one of the things I suggested going into this meeting is maybe the number and amount of 100 low lead full service opportunities out there is pretty small. So maybe we limit this just to Jet A trucks and not 100 low lead trucks. That might be an option, because obviously we know as general aviation pilots, most of us are gonna go and do the self-serve avgas option as opposed to a Jet A driver who wants a full service option, doesn't want to be able to have to turn the engines on to move the aircraft from the fixed fuel system over to the parking area or vice versa, if there's not a tug at that airport. So extending the time might be an option, limiting it to just Jet A fuel systems might be an option. Those are all within the realm of potential possibilities.
Grayson, what's happening in some of our surrounding states? What do they do?
So we have become the envy of the region of what we can do as a state. With our pro-growth aviation infrastructure, I get calls from Texas and Arkansas and New Mexico. They've all asked me, well, hey, how did you have this conversation with your legislature? And I've shared with them in the goodness and the graciousness of the state of Oklahoma, here's how we're able to sell this. And I know Texas just received a significant chunk of money from their legislature for similar kinds of pro-growth aviation infrastructure. We have seen a lot of our states around the country, while they may not focus on the fuel trucks, they have focused on other mobile activities, mobile plows, FOD brushes or snow brushes, snow brooms. So mobile equipment is eligible in other states. It's just, obviously, some of those states have prioritized, instead of fueling systems, other mobile systems around the airport. Obviously, most of those being the northern tier states that would need some of those winter weather capability vehicles.
Thank you.
So is there a minimum criteria for deciding that there's a viable need for a mobile system? In other words, so many sales, so many gallons? You're talking about Jet A versus 100 low lead. Jet A has a much higher demand, much higher sale volume. So is there criteria in those rules for us to consider?
So right now, there is no criteria of who's eligible and not eligible, other than it has to be a airport-run fuel facility. But from a practical perspective, if someone doesn't already have a truck right now, it would be very hard for us. We'd have to give it a significant look to say, here's why we would need to introduce a new mobile fueling system to an airport. That would be a very, very limited basis. What those numbers would be, that I don't know. Putting those in rules, I think, would be a little bit of a hamstringer. That would be something I think you all would want to consider on a project-by-project basis. If we come to you and say, look, this airport doesn't have a fuel truck today. They have been growing. They went from 10 based aircraft to 30 based airplanes. Their fuel sales have increased 50% over the last 5 years. Here's why we think they should be able to be receiving a grant for a new fuel truck. I don't know what those numbers are off the top of my head. And so I don't think that if we put numbers in rules for the level of fuel sales or the level of based aircraft that would justify eligibility for a fuel truck, I think that, given the rules process is a, 18-month process, I think that would be a little bit hard to target.
I think if it's a 50-50, I mean, they've got to have some, there's some skin there, and to make that type of investment, they're going to be looking at that ROI too.
Yeah, this is not a free proposition, and they have to have local skin in the game. I think this is helping communities get over the hump of, well, we've got a 30-year-old truck, and we can keep throwing money at that 30-year-old truck to maintain it, and that really right now is the only option, But if we have presented this as a potential, we'll call it lifeline, this might make the decision of the city to go, well, should we spend 10 grand or 15 or 20 grand a year maintaining this truck for the next, 5 years? Or do we go ahead and just do a one-time purchase, spend half the money, request the other half from the state to go forward and do this particular project? But yeah, they have to have local skin in the game.
I see this program as a consumable item, similar to taxiways, runways. I mean, it gets eaten up over time with usage, and the fuel truck is a much smaller cost. It's a lesser cost compared to a lot of the other projects that this commission funds at local airports, different projects. So just my 2 cents.
I think we at least extend the life of it.
Okay.
And I just know like Phillips, they lease trucks too, and they're not cheap.
They're not.
Nothing in aviation fuel's
No,
cheap.
I mean, I know that they lease them to a lot of these FBOs, and it's not cheap.
I think you were talking about Enid, right? About that you're saying with their increased 3 times fuel that they were not quite qualified for that.
They
Is
had
that what
to, I don't want to say beg,
Yeah,
because
okay.
no airport manager begs, but basically the airport manager was saying, look, guys, we've just increased fuel sales 3 times here.
Yeah.
We need an extra truck. Give us that extra truck for free. And they did. They got the extra truck, and for that time period, I don't know if they've given the truck back or not, because I know Vance's runway is now back open. They don't have nearly the fuel sales at the GA airport that they once did. But I do know that it takes a significant fuel volume to be able to get discounted leased trucks from a Phillips 66 or AvFuel or whoever the provider is of that fuel.
I think at a minimum, a 15-year, I think 15 is probably a minimum
Okay.
for that,
So 15, is that
if we were
something
deciding on
we're
that.
coalescing around? And what about the Avgas versus Jet A? Do we want to limit it to just Jet A? Do we want to keep both as an option? Any other thoughts on that particular?
I like the idea of 15 years. I'll absolutely support that, because the vehicles, like you say, aren't driven a lot. They stay on the airport. I would support both Jet A and Avgas. I just think we should let the local sponsor make that decision what their demand is, and not hamstring one city against another.
Okay.
I would agree with that. Trucks don't get a lot of mileage, but they get a lot of running.
Yeah, they do.
And so every time you pump fuel, that engine's running. It's got transfer cases working, the pump itself is working. So there's a lot of wear and tear on that. I'd be happy with 10. I've seen the junker fuel truck up at Guthrie, and I don't know how they kept it working, but I'm surprised the brakes work, much less anything else in it. So,
Wouldn't that be nice?
and yeah, they've nursed that thing way too long. So I'd be happy with 10 years and let them decide whether they want one or both types.
I think I could be persuaded either way, but at the same time, appearance, aesthetics means a lot. It's got a lot of value. And so if I've got, my nice airplane and I'm at whatever airport and I got this nasty looking truck pulling up to fuel my plane, so I would sway more towards a 10-year, because I just like what I was saying earlier, the cost is smaller compared to a lot of other projects, but just.
Being new here, Jim, how old is the Guthrie truck, do you know? How long they've been milking it along?
Oh, I think about 35 years.
Yeah.
I think it's a 80s vintage.
Yeah.
Maybe older, yeah.
I would suspect. That's why I'm willing to go for 15 years. Having managed some fleets before in hostile weather in Alaska, it does take special care. You can't just drive it off, leave it running. You know, you do need to change the oil, you need to make tires right, you need to make sure it's maintained properly. 35 years would be way too long, but I think extending a little bit forces the local sponsor to have to take care of their equipment as well.
Yeah,
I'm with that.
I'm in agreement. I think 15's.
Director,
Is,
I've got a quick question.
Certainly.
So is, after the discussion we had, Claremore, is that the only project that was seen? Has anybody else participated in this, or was that the one and only that?
So Claremore is the only one that has been officially approved and granted by this board.
Okay.
We have had requests since Claremore to add projects to the ACP for mobile fueling systems, but based on wanting to have this discussion, we basically told them, hey, we need to hold off to get some kind of coalesced agreement amongst the board before we go add any of those projects to the construction program. So we would have probably, what, Nick, 3?
Yeah, somewhere between 3 to 5.
Yeah.
That are kind of in the queue.
They're in the queue. They've made the request. Obviously, we're not going to go fund every single one right off the bat. We'd have to prioritize that just based on budget. But we've had requests, and we basically just held them off and said, look, we need to have this debate with our board before we move forward and add a project to the construction program.
Do we have any feedback from Claremore, any information or data as to how it's benefited them? What kind of progress is created for them, or any kind of whatever the benefits have been to?
Just trying to remember when they got delivery of that truck.
So I think that they either just took delivery or they're waiting. They're supposed to happen around the June timeframe.
Yeah.
They haven't
I've
sent
not
it
seen
back.
a draw on it yet.
Yeah, it's one of those long lead items, Commissioner, so after you guys approve it, then they place the order, and I think it's, if it has arrived, it's been fairly recent, but I know they haven't drawn on the grant.
So they haven't, okay.
So, I know they're extremely appreciative and excited about the potential, but I don't know that they have realized that potential yet, thanks to the order time frame that's needed for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just as a frame of reference, Commissioners, you guys having the discussion and debate, with our move to 9, it will require 5 votes for positive action. So just as a frame of reference there, as you guys are discussing amongst yourselves what route we want to go, we have moved from 4 to 5 as the necessary vote count to take action. And that's just, and also a frame of reference, if we can't coalesce around a number, it remains just as it is.
Yeah.
So if we want to move to 15, we need five affirmative votes to move to 15, or to take whatever positive action the board would like to take. At the very least, I would like to see some kind of positive 5-vote coalescing and not just leave it as it is, so that I can get some kind of, hey, this is what the board has
Clarity,
decided, and this is the route we're gonna move forward. Even if we take action of leave it as it is, I would like us to take action to leave it as it is.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
doing the right.
All right, so you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for whoever wants to make the motion.
Do we have a motion you want to break it out, or?
I think we're gonna break it
Yeah,
out for
okay.
A, and then
So-
we'll talk about B,
So
C,
looking
D.
for a motion for item 8A.
I'll make the motion that we leave it, both types of fuel, and move it to 15 years.
I would second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion to item 8A?
It's currently still 50/50 share? That will not change?
50/50, and I believe we're capped at 300K?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
And that's fine.
that's good.
So everything's wrapped into that, as far as we're talking 15 years, we're talking both types of gas,
Mhm.
Yeah.
50/50.
Any further
Mr.
discussion?
Chair, I would make the comment that I believe, and I think, taking into consideration the questions and the comments that have been made from the other commissioners, is that we establish whatever criteria for qualification. Now, whether you do that after the fact, and we go ahead and vote on this, but I think it would probably, based on the previous conversation we had on it versus the comments that have been made today, would be to have a clear-cut understanding of how and what it would take for an airport or a city or a county to be able to qualify for, as opposed to just laying it out there. My recommendation.
Happy to have that laid out as kind of an informal policy for projects. Right now, the eligibility rule is you have to be an airport-operated fuel system. So that is the thing that is in the admin rules. So, but beyond that, the level of gallons or the level of based aircraft, I think that's something that we would need to work through as a staff before we could present almost not an administrative rule change, but a policy or a working understanding within the airport construction program.
Newbie question over here. So if we approve this as it's been proposed, Grayson, do you still bring each project back to us for the appropriation of the actual dollars?
So you will see a project twice, Commissioner. The first time is when we add it to the 5-year airport construction program. We call that a programming of the project. It's not a formal commitment of the dollars, not a legal commitment, but it's essentially we're telling the airport in this year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we anticipate having the budgetary amount to go forward with that project. So please move forward and work towards all the prerequisites to get that project completed. If it requires design, if it requires, survey, geotech, obviously for a truck, none of that would be required, but for hard infrastructure, it would. And then as we get to that current year, that year 1, we then work with the engineering team of each airport, the consultants that they've hired, to make a judgment call as to, yes, go forward with design. In fact, we will come back to you for design approval costs. We don't do individual design grants typically, unless they're, big projects. But we'll come to you for design approval cost. So that's kind of we'll call it the 1A. So the first time you'll see is adding it to the project. The 1A is when we approve the design fees.
Yep.
And then the final approval would be when we actually take action on the grant itself, which would be the legal obligation to those funds when we have the final cost, either from a bid document or if it's a fuel truck, the acquisition costs of that.
So I asked that question because it fits into Commissioner Ortega's request. That's where the criteria would be refined as you bring it back to us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, so the motion right now is to leave as is and move to a 15-year minimum in both types of trucks, 100 low lead and Jet A.
Yes.
So we've had a motion, we've had a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
To do items B, C, and D now.
Yeah, so B, C, and D, we will be not doing anything monumental, but there's some cleanup language, some grant assurance language that we need to do within the existing airport construction grant program, beyond just the mobile fueling system items. We are going to take a hard look at increasing some of the values and some of the caps and limits on the project, non-fuel related, maybe a terminal building, maybe a hangar, some of the other items, rehabilitation versus reconstruction versus new construction. Aerospace and aviation education program, we have a list of things that we're working with through Paula and through Stephanie and others on hearing your feedback from education meetings of what it is that you would like to see in terms of the criteria, the selection criteria, and those activities. And then obviously for D, we are going to be embarking upon a brand new set of rules based on the statutory authority that the legislature has provided us over the last 2 sessions in 2024, starting the aircraft engine test cell program, and then 25 adding space engines as an eligible project. So obviously you will have other times to vote on those, but again, this is just the initial outset of the start of the rule process for B, C, and D.
Okay, so do we have a motion for 8 items B, C, and D?
So
So
moved.
So moved.
Okay, okay, motion is second. Is there any further discussion on B, C, and D? If none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next order of business is item 9, Airport Construction Grant Program Change Order. Michelle, please continue.
Sure. So for item 9, we are bringing, item 9 before you just to make you aware of an amendment to a state grant for a project at Robert S. Kerr and Poto to rehabilitate the runway. So the amendment was necessary due to additional grading that was needed. The final added cost was $50,900 and almost $19, and the majority covered with FAA funds, $45,826, while state and sponsor match was an additional $2,540, almost $6. And no action is needed on your part. We're just making you aware of the amendment. We did use Director Artie's authority to go ahead and move forward so they could work on that. I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next is item 10, 5-year airport construction program. Nick, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. First, before I get started in this first item, I would like to thank my staff for holding down the fort while I was off on paternity leave, and thank you all for the opportunity to spend some time at home with the new kiddo, the 2-year-old and the wife. So very much appreciate the time off, and thank you for approving the latest iteration of the ACP in May in my absence. And so for item 10, the first thing I'm going to do is ask for forgiveness and forgetting one project in that approval for the May meeting before I headed off, and that is to add a project at ODAA to the ACP. This is a congressionally designated spending project for a total of just shy of $3.6 million. This is to start on their East Parallel project, Parallel Taxiway Bravo, that will open up the east side of their airport into their industrial park that they're working on through some additional prep funds outside of our program as well. So a lot of development happening on the east side of there, and the first thing that we'd be supporting through what will essentially be a discretionary project through the FAA with our normal means of the half the local match to the tune just shy of $90,000. Recommend this project be added to the ACP, and I stand for any questions you may have.
In this 5-year program, Nick, when would this occur?
So as a matter of fact, as we move to, if we do indeed decide to add this to the ACP, I'll be looking for grant approval because this was a CDS project. They've been working on the design and getting the bids in the background throughout this time. So the intention was to add this in the May meeting so that we'd have it ready to go for this one. But again, I do apologize because that was one that I apparently missed on my list as we were getting that ready for you all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. So that concludes 10. You've got.
I would just be seeking
yeah,
action from the commission to add that to the ACP.
Okay.
I so move that we add it.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. Call roll, please.
I'm sorry, who motioned? And who seconded?
I moved.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
and Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. And so I didn't realize you had already gone to the next one, so my apologies there, Sandra. But not to belabor the ADA project, so this is moving on to item 11 here. Just go back just one and we're good, I think. No, you're totally fine. Perfect. So again, the first item there, as Commissioner Campbell, I'm kind of speed running the process that Director Artie's just mentioned to you a second ago. So on the previous item, we just programmed those funds, and now I'm going to be requesting for the same project and a slew of others for the grant approval for the full construction of these projects. So again, for the first one there at Ada Regional on that East Parallel, total project cost at $3.6 million. Our portion of that here from the department would be $89,736, partnering on that discretionary grant through the congressionally designated spending process that ODAA had received. The second project I'll be seeking grant approval for is a crack seal and seal coat to rehabilitate the runway there at Antlers Municipal Airport. This is at a total of $255,380 at a typical 95.5 state grant proposition, with the department share of that being the $242,611 for that runway maintenance project. Moving on to Bartlesville Municipal Airport. This is a project that has two aspects to it. The pavement for the hangar and taxi lane and apron, and then the total the other portion of that, the vertical aspect, we'll see in the next item as part of the prep hangar projects. So the total project here for the pavement and the vertical structure is a total of $5.5 million. The pavement portion of that, which would be handled through a normal state grant outside of that prep hangar project, would be the $403,340. And the department share of that at $383,173. So again, that one connecting two pieces of the whole, it's a $5.5 million total project cost for their hangar and pavement, this portion being for the pavement itself at $403,000. At Clinton Regional Airport, they have a project to construct their T-hangar and 60x60 box hangar. Total project on that came in very favorable, thankfully, and that's at a $1.9 million total project cost. We'll be looking to partner some department funding to the tune of $769,151, and that's partnering with some FAA funding just over $1 million to get that total project completed there. So again, the department share of that just shy of $770,000. Oh, we do have Clinton here. I do have my notes here, so thank you, Grayson. And so I know we have Tracy here. Tracy? Sorry.
Very quick.
No, more than fine.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you again. It's always good to come here periodically to have support as we seek to meet the demand of aviation in western Oklahoma. But thank you for your favorable consideration.
Thank you so much. And sorry, I saw Tracy beforehand, so don't want to steal your thunder there. And I know that I also skipped Bartlesville, but I figured I would save them for the prep fund hangar project, the bigger portion of that. So my friends from Bartlesville back there, I haven't forgot about you either. At South Grand Lake Regional Airports, we have two projects here, kind of, again, one whole project split out into two. So what they have first and foremost, again, about a $5.5 million total project cost out here for their terminal and hangar and the associated pavement with that. So the first portion of that will be the 95.5 state grant portion of the project to the tune of $510,339. And the department share of that 95.5 grant would be at $484,822. The second aspect of that total project would be the vertical aspects there for the terminal and hangar. And that is through appropriation at 100% of state funds to the tune of $5,035,892. And so that kind of gives you the two parts of the whole for that $5.5 million project cost. And this next slide should show you there, again, that vertical portion of that. So that's how those two pieces of the puzzle come together. And we also have a friend from South Grand Lake Regional. So Jim, please feel free.
Good morning. My name's Jim Brown. I'm the chairman of the Trust Authority at the South Grand Lake Regional Airport. We currently have, our terminal is a 12 by 12 room with one bathroom, and we are growing every year. We have all of our available hangar lots are leased, and we're under construction on another privately owned hangar at the moment. So we're very excited about having the opportunity to put our best face forward for the increased traffic that we're getting at South Grand Lake. And we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
At Stigner Regional Airports, we have a project to construct a total of 4 60x60 box hangars. Just updating that little, I know there's a typo in the agenda item that I missed, but here on the slide we have it corrected. That's because we had an add alternate base bid of 3, add alternate for a total of 4. The bids allowed us to go for the full 4. So this is for 4 60x60 box hangars at a total of $1.896 million. The FAA portion of that just over $1 million, and our portion through the hangar program via grant via $758,606 of that, and just over 116 of the local share. I didn't see anybody from Stigler that was able to make it up, but just double checking. I know I saw some stragglers, so I just want to make sure I don't forget anybody. And then the next project there at Tahlequah Municipal, this is to develop their T-hanger on the east side of the airport. As we've mentioned before, those box hangars that they have over on the west side of the airport, many of those penetrate a Part 77 surface, so that gets into your transitional surface, which then begins potentially affecting your instrument approaches and those types of things. So we've been working with them to get that out of the transitional surface to ensure that we're protecting their instrument procedures as much as possible. They have had great success in starting to work through initial leases with moving folks from the west to the east side, and that has allowed us to move forward with adding this project to the ACP. And now that it's been bid out, we are looking to fund that in partnership with the FAA to the tune of $1.9 million. FAA's portion of that just a shade over $1 million on that, and then the department share that we were requesting $773,571 on that. I don't believe Brian was able to make it out either, but just a double check. Excellent. And again, these folks from a little bit further away, I know that the summer travel season, they were doing their best that they could to make it out. That want to make sure that I send their regards and appreciation in their absence. At Tulsa Riverside Airport, this is a project that we were previously looking to go forward with and partner just locally, but as we were getting ready to bid that out, the FAA determined that their crosswind runway was again eligible for AIP dollars, and so they repackaged that and got that bid out to include the FAA requirements on that. And so by doing so, they got just over a $2.3 million project. The FAA will participate at $1.5 million of that through the AIP funds, and we're looking to partner with that with $700,000 of department funds. This is the same level of participation as we had intended to initially participate in, as this was originally considered, conceived as a discretionary or state apportionment project. And so our recommendation is to go back with our normally anticipated share on this project at $700,000, which leaves a little over $116,000 from the local share. And this is to rehabilitate and widen some portions of their runway 1331, their crosswind, which it isn't uniformly, that doesn't have a uniform width down the length of it, and that will move some of their LED lighting as well. I don't believe that Austin or the folks from Tulsa were able to make it down. I know they've had a very busy week from my correspondence with them, so they absolutely send their regards as well. And then the last one for this item would be two parts of a whole project. This is for Wilburton Municipal and their hangar project, as well as the apron and taxi lane to access that area and open up that hangar development area we're trying to open up just north of their main apron. And so the first portion of this will be for the construction of their taxi lane. The overall project cost, as we'll see as we go through the next item, again, that's a prep hangar project. Total project cost just over $976,000 for this hangar and taxi lane. The taxi lane portion at the 95.5 is requested to be a total project cost of $262,856. The department share of that 95.5 at $249,713. Staff recommends approval for these projects to be approved for grants, and I stand for any questions that you might have for each. And I apologize for the weird way some of these are broken out due to the prep funds.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve item 11?
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is item 12, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Fund Project Consent Docket. Nick, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all commissioners for the previous item. As I mentioned, these are for the prep hangars, as Director Artie has alluded to. In FY 2022, we started getting some of these funds that were directed towards specific items. So thankfully, many of these projects have been underway, and these are some of the bigger ones that we've been working on, and glad to see some of these come to fruition. So the first and foremost one that we've been working very hard on there with our friends in Bartlesville is for their 120 by 130 hangar. This again is for the vertical aspect of that, so the hangar portion at $5,002,419. The department's share of that $2,967 requested, and then the local share of that just over $3 million, as the city's partnering with the Bartlesville Development Authority as well. So I know we have a couple friends from Bartlesville, so I'll invite them up this time.
Commissioner, members, thank you for the opportunity. Want to just express gratitude again for consideration of this project in Bartlesville. Since the city resumed operations and ownership of the Bartlesville Airport a while back, there has been a great resurgence and energy out there, and almost a complete re-envisioning of the area as an MRO hub for Northeast Oklahoma. And this hangar is going to go a long way toward advancing our airport and Bartlesville as a community. We've had the announcement of almost 400 new jobs in Bartlesville in the last 18 months, landing a couple of really great projects. And so our community as a whole is on the come, and we're excited about what this is going to do, not only for our airport, but for Bartlesville as we recruit a new MRO company onto our field and continue to add hangars and commercial operations in the future. So this first step is going to be great for us, and we really appreciate it.
I would just echo that. Thank you for the support. The taxiway project a year ago, we finished up in early spring this year. It's fantastic. It's giving us opportunity to develop the east side of the airport probably for the next 10 to 15 years. So thank you again for your support.
And real quick, while I've got the mic, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to work with Grayson and Nick and Sandra and the whole team. They're a great group and extremely professional and have been extremely supportive of Bartlesville, and just want you guys to know what a good job they do. So thank you.
Thank you for the kind words, gentlemen. Our second project for the prep hangars would be at Guyman Municipal Airport. This is to construct their 100 by 120 box hangar. Total project cost for that is going to be $2.3 million. FAA share of that is $1.265 million that they'll be putting in. We're requesting the department's hangar grant portion of that at $920,013, which leaves the local share just over $115,000. I don't believe Greg was able to fly down today. He keeps very busy up there and wears a lot of hats, so we would have been happy to have him, but he sends his regards, and I know he would have found any reason to get out and fly rather than work there at the airport if he had to. So, last and not least is that Wilburton project that I alluded to a little bit earlier. The 75 by 75 box hangar for them is total at $713,211. Again, partnering with some FAA funds at $518,000, and the department share being requested here at $156,337. I stand for any questions you may have for these projects, and I recommend approval.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve item 12?
I so move.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Nick. Next is item 13, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Fund Update. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. Happy to report that our prep funds, you just approved 3 of those hangars. We have a couple more that will be coming before you in August, and I think after that, we'll maybe have 1 left of the $14 million of competitive discretionary hangar grant program from the prep funds. For the 4 mega projects, if anybody's flown out of Will Rogers recently, I think the entirety of the AAR hangar is now skinned. They're working on the door. We are hopeful that we will get access to that in December for a big event, and then the AAR will take the keys the first week or 2 of January. Tulsa Tower is going vertical. If you've flown out of Tulsa, you've seen Tulsa International, you've seen the tower coming out of the ground. A month ago, it was at 40 feet, I think. I don't know what it's at today, but it's going. It's getting up there. Ardmore, their taxiway project is basically complete. Their apron project is about to get underway. They are going to be bidding out the final phases between now and end of the year, those being the roadway and the parking lot for their cargo facility, and then the utilities piece for the air cargo facilities. Those will be separate bids, but you should see those come across your desk for approval sometime between now and the end of the calendar year. Woodward received bids on the final projects, the runway extension, the apron reconstruction, and the runway rehabilitation. We are currently evaluating those bids and seeing what we can fit within the existing budget that they have remaining. Their existing projects, the terminal, the hangar, the taxiway access road, the utilities are all going very successfully. I think they just had a final inspection on the taxi lane and access road pieces a couple of weeks ago. Again, as I've mentioned before, we will come to you with the celebrations of those projects and would encourage any of you to attend those, regardless of what district or area you may be serving. So we are hopeful that by the time, I think the last project will probably be either the Ardmore Utility or the Tulsa Tower, but hopefully by the end of 2026, we will have all of our prep projects, if not complete, within the final closing hour, and we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel for those funds. So just want to stand for any questions that you all might have, but excited, progress, and looking forward to all the celebrations that are going to be happening over the next 18 months.
All right, thank you, Grayson. Next is item 14, Aircraft and Space Engine Test Cell Grant Program. Sandra, you recognize.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is going to be new for you. Engine test cells are a critical component to any maintenance, repair, and overhaul operation, as they allow for engines to be operated on the ground and in controlled environments. And this allows the MRO company to ensure the engine is working properly after an overhaul or other maintenance is completed before installing it back on the aircraft for regular operations. As you know, the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics in 2023 ran a bill to incorporate an aircraft engine test cell program, a grant program, and the governor vetoed that, and we brought it back in 2024, and it did pass the legislature, and the legislature appropriated some funding to the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics. And this year we added space engines and rocket engines to that bill, and so that passed in 2025. And today we are seeing the very first enactment of one of those grants, and I'd like to bring Bump Grant from Bristow, Oklahoma up to be here with me. The aircraft engine test cells market size was valued at $4.8 billion in 2023, and the worldwide aircraft engine test cells market size is expected to reach $5.4 billion by 2033. Senate Bill 1372 was passed during the 2024 legislative session, and the following items are what the statute calls for in terms of qualifications. So I just want to remind you about the bill that passed, and Michelle spoke earlier about those rules as well. Airline or industry support are evidenced by a letter or other communication directly from the entity stating its support for the project, the ability to provide a minimum of 40% matching funds for the project, a proposal summary that shall include any background information or history with aircraft engine testing and development, project description, timeline for completion of the project, and estimated budget for the entire project. And I believe that Kratos and Consolidated Turbine Services in Bristow, Oklahoma has met those requirements, and the staff is seeking approval for 2 grants for Kratos Defense and Security Solutions at Bristow, one for $2.7 million and one for $5.4 million. And I will let Mr. Grant speak to their projects.
Good morning, Commissioners. We greatly appreciate everything that the state of Oklahoma has done for us and continues to do for us. And we started in Consolidated Turbine Specialists in 2012, and 2019 we were acquired by Kratos Defense. It's an amazing story that we have, and we're so excited to have the continued support from Oklahoma. And one of the reasons that we decided to expand here in Bristow was because of the workforce and the support from the state and this test cell grant. So we greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys do for us. It's amazing. I get the honor to go to a lot of different shows from Paris to HAI or now Verticon to MBAA, and to brag on this state is a great honor. It's very truthful. So I appreciate you considering this, and we would look for your support. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, I'm going to show this slide. Will you just talk a little bit about the engine test cell itself? By the way, this is not my fault. This is very sensitive.
All right, there's actually going to be 4 test cells. The test cell that you're looking at right now is 3 of the brand new test cells. These test cells have never been built. This engine has never been certified. It's in the certification state right now. We are partnered with GE Aerospace. At some point, we expect that this engine that's hanging on the rendering there will come off at 500 per year. The second line is already approved, and that will actually go to 1,000 per year on those. That will be 3 of those test cells that will do these. We fully project that we'll end up having 5 engine lines there. So there will actually be, we'll probably be standing back before you in the future asking for 2 more test cells. I hope that happens soon. The other test cell is an addition to our PT6 MRO, and it'll be built at the airport there at Bristow. So we don't have a drawing on it yet. We'll have it over the next few weeks, and we're wanting to sign the contracts and get going on all of these as quick as we can. So just an additional note, our current test cell on the PT6 MRO, it runs 70 hours a week, 7 days a week, 10-hour shifts. So it's a critical item. It's one of those things that if it goes down, we don't have a backup plan. And our growth, to give you some ideas on our growth at CTS, 2023 was our largest year that we ever had in history since 2012. We surpassed that in 2024 by 37%. So our growth trajectory is amazing, and I tell everybody, everybody says, you know, it sounds like you guys are busy, and it's sometimes it feels like you're just along for the ride. And it's a great team and a great bunch of people that I get honored to work with. So, thank you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Test cells are for what? Business jet type engines?
These engines that you're looking at there, most of those have a one-way mission, and I'm not going to expand too much on that.
I understand.
So, any other questions?
A facility tour would be amazing.
We can arrange that. So you can tour the MRO facility there at CTS at any time. You're always welcome. And we'll be breaking ground before the end of this year on this new facility. So.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
So just to clarify kind of how this journey happened, 3 years ago, the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics, BUMP, came to us, and some other people came to us from the Tulsa community, but BUMP came later, but the Tulsa community came first. And Director Arties had some great foresight and said, hey, let's do an engine test cell program. These are appropriated dollars. These are not dollars coming out of the agency. These are appropriated by the legislature, and so I wanted to make that clear as well. And also, I just wanted to let you know that this is a win for this agency. This was our concept. You know, we talk about forwarding aerospace in the state, and we love commerce, but this was ours, and I'm so proud of this work that we're doing, and we look forward to many, many grants in the future. I'll stand for questions.
Great job.
Any questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve item 14?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Sandra. Our next order of business is item 15, Aerospace and Aviation Education Program Update. Stephanie, you're recognized.
Thank Thank you, thank you, Chairman Rainey, and good morning, Commissioners. Late May and early June allowed us to finalize our outreach to schools interested in learning more about our education program. We had school visits to Tishomingo and Chickasha, with both of those districts coming on board for the 2025-2026 school year. We also had an introductory visit to Southwest Covenant School in Yukon. Item B is our education teacher training, AOPA teacher training, and our banquet. We registered a record number, you can see from the photo there, of teachers for this year's AOPA teacher training held June 9th through 11th at Rose State College. We had 110 teachers in attendance for this year's event, which began with a trip on Monday morning to the Mike Monroney Center for a deep dive into air traffic control, which is not something that is really delved in deeply in the AOPA curriculum. So this is something that we are kind of endeavoring to slide in some supplemental lessons with the help of some of our partners at the Mike Monroney Center this year, so that our teachers and students have the opportunity to learn more about that career path. While at Monroney, our teachers got an incredible up-close and personal experience with the FAA Academy. The program was designed to build their build their understanding of how the Academy works, criteria for admission, and what a day in the life of an FAA Academy student looks like, sounds like. So much more was part of that day. Our teachers were literally blown away by this experience and so appreciative for the opportunity to spend some time at the Academy. We are indebted to Justin Cockcroft and Dwayne Davis, who were instrumental in planning and facilitating this special event for our teachers. We also want to extend a special thank you to our friends at Rose State College, who so graciously hosted our teacher training event this year. Everyone at Rose State, from President-elect Travis Hurst to Dean Whitney Alvis to Chef Kevin, who prepared every meal we had there in that lovely facility with love. The attention to detail, the state-of-the-art venue, and the sense of welcome was present in every detail during our time there. It was phenomenal. Rose State College is really a hidden gem, and their willingness to partner with us on anything we ask knows no bounds. They're phenomenal. They are amazing in their commitment to our work, and we are so thankful for their partnership with us. On the evening of June 10th, we hosted Quick Climb to Success, call sign AOPA 2025, in homage to our kind of traipse down the air traffic control lane. Our annual celebratory banquet, which I know some of you were able to join us that evening, was held at Innovation Hall in the Oklahoma City Innovation District. This year's event was sponsored in part by Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and featured a keynote address by Embry-Riddle Professor Bettina Marusek. The highlight of our banquet was the announcement, again, of Oklahoma's status as #1 in the nation. This is for the 4th year in a row now. In the coming school year, we will have 146 Oklahoma high schools offering 4-year aerospace aviation pathways. And you have a beautiful handout at your table there that shows, and Melissa did a phenomenal job of kind of organizing our schools regionally, and so you can see in your districts what high school programs are there. We are so thankful to the incredible teachers and school leaders who believe in this work, who invest in it and make it happen every single day. From our tiniest rural schools in the state to our largest urban districts, Oklahoma is leading the way in aerospace education, and that's so exciting to be a part of. On this special night, we were also privileged to highlight the accomplishments of 2 of our very own students from our programs in Ada High School and Pryor High School. Brooklyn Black from Ada, who will be attending the University of Oklahoma and majoring in to become a commercial pilot. She and Nicholas Rowland from Pryor, who will be attending Oklahoma State University, majoring in aeronautical engineering and really wants to focus in and work for OAA and do a lot of work on the UAS side of things. They were selected as our very first Oklahoma Aerospace Students of the Year for our high school programs, and we're very proud of them. On June 11th and 12th, we attended the COSA, COSA conference for Oklahoma school administrators at the Oklahoma City Convention Center. This also was a very successful event with the opportunity to make contacts with school leaders across the state, many of whom are asking us to visit in the fall so that they can find out more about bringing aerospace education to their districts. On June 27th, we hosted also a very special event for about 150 of our students and teachers. The Thunderbirds, as you know, were in town for the Tinker Air Show, and they wanted to meet some of our students, so here they came. Rose State College opened their doors to us yet again and hosted this special meet and greet with a portion of the Thunderbird team. It was such a fun and informative, for me especially, who didn't know much about, I mean, obviously I knew the Thunderbirds, but wasn't really versed in their whole organizational structure. It was really cool to find out about that. And this was really the perfect pregame, if you will, for the Thunderbirds' stunning demonstration at the Tinker Air Show for the next 2 days. So this concludes our education report, and I stand for any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Next, we have item 16, review of aerospace conferences and trade shows. Grayson and Sandra, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. We will first review AUVSI Exponential. I'll have Doug come up for just a minute and help just a little bit with this. So Doug and I went to Houston for the AUVSI Expo, and it was a great show, that well attended, and I'll let Doug elaborate about the multi-state collaborative, and then I'll cover the rest.
Commissioners, thank you. So there were a number of things that took place at the AUVSI, which is the Autonomous Unmanned Systems Vehicle Association, primarily a trade organization for unmanned aircraft and unmanned ground and submersible. It's across the board. But we focus primarily on the aviation side. There were a number of panels on regulatory issues involving advanced air mobility vehicles and small and large drones, large package delivery drones, and how we're going to work towards with the FAA and integrating those into the airspace safely. A lot of the rules, a lot of the detect and avoid capabilities, a lot of the supplemental data service providers that the FAA has been working with to try to ensure before they make final decisions on those rules and allow them to operate. So a lot of the entities that were there were working with the FAA and others to try to work out all of those problems before these things start flying for real, so the unmanned aerial taxis of the future. We also met with a number of vendors with our partners at the Department of Commerce. We had a meeting with the Taiwanese trade delegation. We had a meeting with the South Korean trade delegation, as well as the Japanese trade delegation, all interested in Oklahoma, what we're doing here in Oklahoma in advanced air mobility and drones, and what investment opportunities may be for Oklahoma in those countries, as well as their investment opportunities here in Oklahoma. And so those trade talks have been going on for a couple of years, including a trade mission trip to Taiwan I participated in last year. And then finally, we basically went around and looked at a number of the vendors that were there at that trade show, both on the educational side. There are a number of education drones. If you're aware of the countries of non-compliance potential ban coming down that will ban DJI, Autel, and other Chinese drones, those happen to be the kind of the Honda or the Toyota of the drone world. They're the cheapest, they do it the best, they have the best features, and we supply those to our educators because we can do that for a relatively low expense for a high return on investment. If those types of drones are banned, you're looking at a 20 times increase in cost for an educational drone. We can supply drones for $200-300 now. Those same drones could be $1,500 to $2,000 in the future, just because of the difficulty in sourcing and parts and capabilities. And so the American drone industry is obviously trying to flourish. AUVSI is a huge part of that in working with American companies and friendly nations to try to source parts. That was reflected recently with the President's executive orders on exerting American drone dominance that was released, I think, 4 weeks ago. If you haven't had an opportunity to read either one of those executive orders that the President put out, one on the drone side, one on the cyber counter UAS side, I encourage you to take a look at those. I'm happy to forward those to you if you'd like. But there was a lot of conversation prior to those executive orders coming out about those topics. So, and I'll stand for any questions.
We also had the opportunity to meet with the Consul General of Ukraine while there in Houston, and it was an excellent meeting, and we had the Oklahoma Department of Commerce with us there, and so he is there on the right next to the tall gentleman in the middle. So it was a good time to just embrace Doug's industry, the UAS AAM industry, and to learn more. And so now, if it's all right with you, Commissioner Rainey, I'll speak about the Paris Air Show. Okay? So the Paris Air Show, that's Governor Stitt and the Secretary of Commerce, and this is, Bump Grant probably has stepped away, but this is Stacy Rock, and Stacy is with the Kratos Company, and he is Bump Grant's boss, and so they made their announcement, their expansion announcement there at the Paris Air Show. And this is Secretary Duffy visiting with Governor Stitt. I do want to say that the Oklahoma Department of Commerce did an excellent job building out the show. They just did a fantastic job. I was blown away by their expertise, and the ACES program did an amazing job. So this is Secretary Duffy, who came by to visit with the Oklahoma booth, and you'll see many state legislators also there that attended as well. And there is Representative Nick Archer, Representative Nicole Miller, and Representative Tammy Townley, and Representative Anthony Moore. And you can see way back in the back, Director Grayson Arties. And this was the Dawn Aerospace announcement. And Director Arties or Craig may cover that later. But there's the Secretary of Commerce, and also Representative Eric Harris is also in that photo there. And this is Representative Miller with Bump and Stacy from Kratos Bristow. And we had some great meetings with Lufthansa, and that is Heather Turner, and she is with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce as well. And this is a great photo of the team there. Those are all legislators with Bailey Siegfried from NORDAM. I do want to say something about the Paris Air Show. I thought whenever people go to the Paris Air Show, you know, it's champagne, and I can tell you I was up at 5 in the morning. It was an hour-and-a-half bus ride to ride 18 miles, and you get into the show about 7:30, and the meetings start immediately at 8. And there was 15 to 20 meetings a day, and there is nothing close. Not even the drink facilities or the restrooms are not close. So, and then you leave, the show concludes, you leave about 4:30, then you take the 2-hour ride home because the traffic is even worse, the 18 miles, and then you start your evening. So I just wanted to tell everyone that we work hard there, and it is not as glamorous as you think, but I am so grateful that I was able to attend for the first time ever. I'd like to thank Director Arties and Chris for sending me, and I stand for any questions.
Great, thank you, Senator. Next up is item 17, review of aerospace events activities. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What was the average daily step count, Sandra? About 20,000? Yeah, it was some walking. Item 17 had a couple of events and activities that have happened since our May meeting. First and foremost, the Claremore ribbon cutting on their hangar, beautiful hangar there for their aeromedical operation. This is one of the prep projects and came to fruition, had the opportunity to speak there. Great, beautiful background with the Aerovac Life team. So they're going to be able to consolidate their operations out of the main hangar at the airport, and that will then open up space for other aviation activities as they go base in this particular hangar. But great opportunity there on Claremore Banner Day at the end of May. And then next, but certainly not least, was the wonderful Tinker Air Show. I know many of you were able to be out there. We had a banner 4 hours on Saturday from 8:30 to 12:30. It was beautiful weather, cloudy, some sprinkles, and then of course Oklahoma decided to show up in full force that afternoon. It was hot. We had 500 rockets, Chris? 500 rockets built in the first day. I think we probably could have built those in the first 2 or 3 hours, but we did try to limit ourselves a little bit and offer up some rockets for the second day. We built 1,600 balsa wood airplanes across the 2 days. Probably could have been 3,000 if we really wanted to. Our booth was exhausted. We were clean tables at the end of both days. Everybody had taken everything from us. The conversations, the kiddos, the parents, absolutely tremendous there in STEM City. Sandra had worked with a vendor to get a big screen video board and had the opportunity to play a lot of the ODAA and aviation aerospace videos and just connect and hopefully inspire that next generation. Of course, we have the air show. We had a lot of lawmakers in attendance there. You go see the static displays. You have Senator Haste and Hilbert and Brenda Stanley, and help me out. Help me do some name identifications. Those are some shadows in the faces. There's the new Air Base Wing Commander with Senator Haste, and it really was. Thunderbirds flew both days. We had some interesting. Speaking of fuel trucks, some interesting, fun avgas fuel truck conversations right up until the last minute. But all the piston-driven airplanes flew. Tora was one of the big piston acts. Of course, we had the MiG-17s, P-51, what's the parachute operation that
Golden
flew?
Knights?
No, it wasn't the Golden Knights. Yeah, it was.
Air Force Academy team?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Wings of Blue?
Wings of Blue, there you go. Yeah, there we go. And so just a great opportunity. I know they shut down the gates, I think about noon the first day. I don't think they ended up having to shut the gates down the second day. But a great show. Want to say thanks to Chris Muller and the Star Solutions team and all the volunteers. I know a lot of the representatives volunteered. I think we have one of them sitting behind me, and Representative Miller, that volunteered her time. And of course, the entire team. This is a all-hands-on-deck effort for the ODAA team. It's one of the few times that I force people to work on the weekends, but it is rewarding, maybe the most rewarding single event that we have throughout the course. I wish I could say every year, because we know it only happens once every other year, but truly rewarding, and I know the money that we spend on that event is a great ROI. We don't have an OERB-style campaign that you see on TV. We don't have Chickasaw Nation, Choctaw Nation kinds of campaigns. This Tinker Show is our aerospace campaign. And this is our one singular truly event to inspire the next generation of professionals and make everybody a believer of the aviation aerospace industry across the state of Oklahoma. And really, truly makes you proud to be an American. So, that being said, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Grayson. Next up is item 18, preview of upcoming aviation aerospace events. Sandra, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. I was not aware that Representative Miller was in the audience, but Representative Miller volunteered her time on Saturday to build airplanes, to greet legislators, freshman legislators, and introduce us, and she is just a champion for aerospace in the state, and I really want to thank her. Commissioners, we are preparing for Oshkosh, and the Oklahoma Luncheon will be July 25th from noon to 1 at the Pober Pixie Tent. And I'm not sure if any other commissioners will be there. Seth Phillips and I will be there, it sounds like. And I'm trying to entice him to come to the Oklahoma Luncheon, where we will have Roxy's for lunch. So I know that we had a lot of legislators there this year, and our flights didn't work out this year for legislators, but if you have a G100 you'd like to loan us, please call me. So I'm open to it. So the Miami Regional Airport is going to open a new terminal August 1st, and so the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics is supporting that event. We encourage you to sign up through Eventbrite, and we hope that everyone will turn out. It is a beautiful terminal, and it is an incredible town, and so I hope that you will join us that Friday morning. And Mid-America Industrial Park is also doing a dedication of their terminal August 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and they're hoping to turn this into an annual fly-in. So it's a fly-in or drive, and they have ramp attendants lined out, and they are ready for you to attend. They do ask that you sign up through Eventbrite if you do plan to attend. And then Girls in Aviation Day has been set for September 20th at AAR at 10 a.m. We do encourage all commissioners and people watching to please attend. Please bring your young people there. And if you would like to volunteer that day, I am accepting applications. So I look forward to all of these events and stand for questions.
Thanks, Sandra. Next, we have item 19, Director's Report. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will try and be brief to get us to our break. Had the opportunity to speak at the Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology graduation ceremony. I was their keynote speaker. You know, I love speaking. I do enjoy it, but some of the hardest speaking I do is speaking to aviation groups because I have to be truthful. You know, if you go speak to a non-aviation crowd, you can make up your aviation story and no one's going to call you on it. But when you're speaking to a group full of 120 freshly educated aviators, there's no room for BS. So I spent probably about the longest I've ever spent on a speech developing that graduation ceremony speech, and I think they were hopefully excited and wowed there at the campus in Tulsa. Combination of mechanics, aviation technologists, pilots, and others. About 110, I think, graduates that were there, and great opportunity to speak. On June 6th, had the opportunity to attend the 72nd Air Base Wing change of command ceremony. Colonel Abigail Rashetta, it was change of command and retirement. She retired, changed command. She relinquished command to Colonel Francisco Harris. He's got some big shoes to fill, but I suspect, hearing his past opportunities and accolades in his service, he will be able to do that and do Tinker Air Force Base proud. And then last but not least, the State Chamber annual meeting on June 25th. Keynote group there with OU President Harris, Joe Castiglione, and of course Coach Patty Gasso. Great opportunity to hear those three OU powerhouses speak and share and talk about the OU story. And then, of course, our very own aerospace extraordinaire, Rick Nagel, was brought in as the incoming chair to the State Chamber Board for the 2025-2026 cycle. So good opportunities there, and certainly stand for any questions.
Thank you, Grayson. Now we have item 20, concluding remarks. Are there any additional comments from staff or commissioners? Hearing none, I'll move to next item, item 21, announcement of next meeting. Our next scheduled meeting will be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, August 6, 2025, here in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Item 22, Director, is there any new business? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask
yes.
indulgences again, the newbie? Could I go back to the commissioner's comments for a second?
Absolutely.
I would like to let everybody up here know that I did an orientation day with staff. It was fantastic. They provided me a whole list of information, able to bring me up to speed on most everything we talked about the agenda. And I just want you all to know you got a fantastic group working for you because they really filled me in and got me ready to be here today.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Okay, we'll move to item 23, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Make a second.
I declare this meeting adjourned.